the pumpkin that wanted to shine once upon a time. In a quiet little village surrounded by golden fields, there was a large pumpkin patch. Dozens of pumpkins grew there round, plump, and orange, waiting for harvest season when families would come to pick them. Among all the pumpkins, there was one small pumpkin named Puffy. He wasn't very big or very round. His color wasn't bright orange like the others. Instead, he was a soft, pale orange. The other pumpkins used to laugh at him. "Look at Puffy," said Tommy, the biggest pumpkin in the patch. "He's so tiny. Who would ever choose him?" The pumpkins around giggled. Puffy felt sad but stayed quiet. He often looked up at the sky at night and whispered, "Oh, how I wish I could shine like the moon. Maybe then everyone would see that I'm special too." Every evening, when the sun went down, the moon rose above the fields. Puffy would gaze at its glowing round shape and dream of being just like it. Days passed. The air turned cool and crisp. Farmers and families began visiting the pumpkin patch. One by one, the big bright pumpkins were picked and carried away. Tommy, the biggest one, was chosen first. Then Bella, then Rusty, and then dozens more. But no one picked Puffy. He sat quietly in the corner of the field, feeling lonelier each day. The vines around him began to wither, and the nights grew colder. One evening, when the moon was full and bright, Puffy whispered sadly, "Dear moon, everyone has been chosen except me. I just wanted to shine too. I wanted to make someone happy." The moon looked down kindly, its silver light covering the lonely little pumpkin. A soft voice seemed to echo in the breeze. "Every pumpkin shines in its own time. Dear Puffy, be patient." Puffy didn't really understand, but he trusted the moon's gentle voice. He closed his eyes and slept under the starry sky. The next morning, a little girl named Aisha came to the pumpkin patch with her father. She was small, cheerful, and full of curiosity, but she was also blind. She couldn't see the pumpkins' colors or sizes, but she could feel their shapes with her hands. "Papa," she said, holding her father's hand, "I want a pumpkin that feels kind." Her father smiled. "Let's find one together." They walked through the patch. Aisha touched many pumpkins, big, smooth, heavy ones, but something felt wrong. They were perfect on the outside, but none of them felt kind, as she said. Then her hand touched Puffy. He was small, warm, and had a gentle bump in the middle, like a little smile. "This one," she said softly. "This pumpkin feels happy." Her father looked surprised. "Are you sure, Aisha? This one's quite small." "Yes, Papa," she said, hugging Puffy gently. "He feels special." And just like that, Puffy was chosen. He couldn't believe it. After all this time, someone had picked him not because he was big or bright, but because of how he felt. At home, Aisha placed Puffy on her table. She didn't carve scary faces like other kids did during autumn. Instead, she gently polished his skin and put a tiny light inside him, a small candle that her father helped her set. When the candle flickered on, Puffy began to glow softly from the inside. His pale orange skin turned golden. He looked at his reflection in the window and gasped. He was shining. The light wasn't as bright as the moon, but it was warm and peaceful, just like Aisha's heart. That night, as the wind blew gently through the trees, Aisha sat by Puffy and whispered, "Thank you, my little pumpkin. You make my room feel cozy and bright. You shine just right." Puffy's heart filled with joy. He realized that he didn't need to be the biggest or brightest pumpkin in the patch. He was loved for who he was. Days went by, and every night, Aisha would sit by the glowing pumpkin, telling stories to her father. Puffy listened happily, proud to be part of their home. One evening, Tommy the big pumpkin, who used to tease Puffy, rolled past Aisha's window in a farmer's cart. He was carved into a large lantern, but already starting to rot inside because of the big holes cut into him. When he saw Puffy glowing warmly in the window, Tommy whispered, "You were right to stay small. Puffy, you shine better than any of us." Puffy smiled softly, his little light flickering with pride. Maybe shining isn't about how big we are, he thought, but about how kind our hearts are. As the nights grew colder, Aisha's candle began to melt faster. One night her father said, "Aisha, it's time to let the pumpkin go. He's grown old." Aisha hugged Puffy and whispered, "You'll always be my shining pumpkin." The next morning, her father placed Puffy outside under the moonlight so the seeds inside could return to the earth. Before falling asleep for the last time, Puffy looked at the moon and said, "You were right, dear moon. Every pumpkin shines in its own time." The moon glowed brighter than ever, as if smiling down at him. Spring came again. The vines sprouted, green and full of life, and from one of those vines grew a new little pumpkin rounder, softer, and glowing faintly, even in the daylight. Aisha called it Little Puffy. Every night, the new pumpkin seemed to shimmer gently under the moonlight, as if remembering the old Puffy's wish to shine and make someone happy. And it did. Moral of the story: you don't need to be the biggest or the brightest to shine. Real light comes from kindness, patience, and a pure heart. When you spread love and warmth, you glow from within just like Puffy, the pumpkin who finally learned to shine.